Don Gray is a painter and art critic, currently writing for Art World in New York City. Since 1975, he has interviewed artists, critics, collectors, museum curators, and gallery directors on his program Artist and Critic on Manhattan Cable Television. Many major publications have written about Don Gray. Art News writes, although the concept of the masterpiece seems to have gone out of style, this is a word that constantly comes to mind in confronting Gray's major works. This view is echoed by the Christian Science Monitor. The painting, Red Snapper, Cézanne and Van Gogh, 68 by 95 inches, is the kind of picture earlier artists produced to establish their right to be called master. The New York Times comments, the compelling intensity of Don Gray's figures makes an immediate, striking impression, and these paintings have a tendency to dominate the gallery. A view supported by the Philadelphia Inquirer. These emphatic works feature a greater virtuosity in paint handling than we commonly see today.
The basic factor unifying my work is my concern with the substance and color and character of reality. Therefore, my work spans a wide variety of subject matter because reality is so varied. For example, in this self-portrait with the dollar bill, which is my comment upon the artist, the art world, and the artist living in the world, it talks about the contrast of money in the hand against the paintings of an angel and the Virgin by Pontormo in a book entitled The Great Frescoes. And then on the inside of the book, reflected in the mirror, all of the pictures reflected in the mirror except the cover of the book and the dollar in the hand. We see greedy, grasping figures, which again express something of the material world as it can be. And then this self-portrait holding the dollar bill, which is the hand that was seen in the foreground. This picture is also a conscious attempt to redefine realism in painting, to discover it in my own terms. In many respects, I've felt in an age of abstraction that I've had to rediscover reality, certainly for myself. My other pictures, for example, a picture of Schnebly Hill in Sedona, Arizona, shows another aspect of my realism, looking past the two towering pinnacles down to the valley below, where Sedona, invisible in the mist, lies generally in the area of the light-struck highway. As long as I can try to capture the character of whatever I'm painting or drawing, in this instance it's a chalk drawing, a pastel, as long as I can capture something of the character, the color, in this instance the sense of space and the solidity of forms, then I feel that I am expressing what I need to express. A very strong dimension in my work, in addition to the realism and the search for substance and the richness of color, is symbolism. In the May 1986 issue of Art News article, Artists the Critics Are Watching, my work was discussed along with 16 other artists across the nation, and they called me a symbolic realist. Well, a picture like this one, called Goya and Puppet, clearly expresses the symbolic nature of my work along with the realistic aspects. The puppet seems fenced in behind a light bulb box and a Lipton tea box, and behind it is a book open to paintings by the tremendous 18th and 19th century painter, Spanish painter Francisco Goya. On the left, women enjoying the sunny day. The little dog reaches up to them as if asking for attention or affection. On the right, the blacksmiths at the forge expressing a certain amount of struggle and labor, and it's as if the puppet is caught between a world of grace and a world of struggle. I enjoy still life very much because That's what it does. It just lies there and remains still, and it allows you, particularly me, a realist, to spend some time studying the forms, looking at them. As Cézanne querulously spoke to his wife when she shifted after sitting for a long time for a portrait, does an apple move? Well, a flower doesn't move either. And I particularly enjoyed this study of tulips in a glass bowl on a chair with a red shirt behind it and a book in the lower right-hand corner. The realities of glass, the realities of the flower petals, and the sense of life being expressed through flowers. I think flowers are symbolic of life, of our desires for happiness and fulfillment, and I think that's why so many of us take such pleasure in them. In this instance, some tulips from our own garden. Simple still life objects like squash, like apples, like squash in a plate in the next picture that we'll look at, to me are filled with a more meaning than one might suspect. We so easily pass by these common objects. We peel them, we eat them, we slice them, we dice them, we throw away the apple core. We've enjoyed the apple, and that's about it. Like many artists who are obsessed with reality, who see in it deeper meanings, deeper spiritual meanings perhaps, I search out these deeper feelings and ideas, spiritual ideas, in the substance and flesh of these simple objects. In the desert, in Sedona, Arizona, in New Mexico, many majestic mesas standing like ramparts, solidly uprearing from the earth, and then the clouds, heavenly objects with the rain falling down to connect the sky and the earth. There's something beautiful about it, there's something significant about it, and I think landscapes can be both attractive, decorative, and have significance, and this is what I'm trying to capture, some of the beauty of it, some of the deeper meaning in it as well. In Sedona, I literally call this picture my Egypt, because there are so many rock formations that look like figures of mythological creatures. Here it seems almost to me like a giant rabbit or pharaoh rabbit head that we look at. And the rocks themselves are so alive, and I see it, my job as the artist, to try to express something of that life, something of that character, something of that solidity. Having grown up in Arizona, having grown up in the Southwest, also having lived in New York for 25 years, my wife and I are coming back to Arizona and New Mexico at least half the year to reestablish our roots here. And these desert scapes are my response to my native land, to the land of my childhood. I have tremendously poignant, moving, and profound memories and emotional responses to this country, and I never get tired of looking at it, never get tired of drawing it, both for its own beauty and for what it reminds me of, my past, my childhood, my early life. I think that that's what all artists are trying to do, is to express something significant of their feelings about life. And in these particular pieces, the rain over the desert in another pastel that I saw in Cave Creek, Arizona, where there's such a tremendous expanse of weather. You turn in a 360-degree circle, and there may be 3 or 4 separate storms. There's just simply a great drama, and I try to express it with a certain freedom of technique, a certain immediacy of response that will capture the visual appearance of the event as well as the poetry of it.
Hello, I'm Jessie Benton Evans-Gray. Before we look at my work, I just wanted to give you my background. I was born in Arizona, way out on the Arizona desert, at the base of a mountain called Camelback, which was both shaped like a camel and had a praying monk, a rock shaped like a praying monk on the side. And it was a mountain of not only anthropomorphic, but also with many legends behind it of peddlers who had come across the desert and had their camels turned into stone. And so that I began to see nature as animals anthropomorphically as well as mythically in terms of legends. My great-grandmother was Jessie Benton Evans, a very well-known southwestern artist who came to Arizona in 1911. And at age 4, she put a brush in my hand and told me I was an artist. And it seemed very, very natural to me to go out into nature and to transform nature into art. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I think growing up in the desert gave me a wonderful feeling of optimism in the land, of a feeling that anything and everything is possible, a land of infinite possibilities, much like the 19th century painter's church in Bierstadt. And I've carried that with me all my life, just a feeling of positivism, almost a humanism. And I try to put this into my work. I love brilliant color. I love space. Of course, in the desert, the sky dominates, and it's dominated my work all of my life. The desert is very simple in its shapes. It has very elemental cosmic forms. And those shaped my psyche so that I really see all nature that way. In fact, I even see human faces and animals, everything in terms of these shapes. I feel an expansiveness, sort of a new world positivism. And I feel that I'm putting these feelings that our country was really founded on into a 20th century idiom in my work. I see nature as myth, and my first painting will show you that. Here I saw the sun and the jagged clouds battling each other like good and evil for dominance of the earth. And while I was out there, suddenly the sun shot a ray down to the horizon, to the mountain, and indeed won the battle. I tried to capture this really dramatic and elemental conflict in my painting. I see myself really as looking at nature very positively. Growing up in the desert made me think of the land as having infinite possibilities, limitless space, grand opportunities. The same feeling that the 19th century painters like Bierstadt and Church had. And I feel really that I'm a 20th century counterpart to them. I still feel a very positive aspect in the land, a very moving, broad and grandiose pattern to it all. I love the play of light and dark. I love the sun making shadows across the landscape. I love the way the sun eats through clouds. Here I love the way the rain falls on the earth, the way the clouds make patterns on the earth. I really see nature in terms of movement, in terms of dramatic contrasts. The sun is such a dominant symbol as it has been for all cultures because of course it's the source of all of our light and all of our life. All life is dependent upon it, and I think it dominates our psyches even when it's hidden from view, as it is when it's behind clouds or behind trees, literally with its light eating away their tree trunks. When I paint, I physically feel the forms that I paint. If land is the hills are muscular, I can almost feel the tension in my body. And when I paint clouds, the strokes acquire the rhythm or the sinuousness of the cloud forms. I feel that painting is really a flow between me and the object, a circular flow of energy. And by painting on the spot, in life, that energy just flows through me, and I'm really only part of the process. It's me, nature, and some sort of really a spiritual presence of God that somehow is involved in it all. I'll end on a scene of the New Mexico landscape, and believe me, these hills were very muscular. But through it all, the sun shone down and illuminated the aspens over at Tezuki Valley.
The Christian Science Monitor describes the painting of Jessie Benton Evans Gray as art that is visionary, ecstatic, ominous, highly romantic. The Monitor adds, even Van Gogh would have been surprised at her painting's breadth and depth of execution. The New York Times comments, coming to her painting is like coming to an oasis. Like Charles Birchfield, but the symbolism is more revved up. She approaches William Blake. In another review, the Times states, one function of art is to expand rather than merely reiterate human experience. Gray's art rings true. The Times Herald Record in New York, Jessie Benton Evans Gray is an expressionist with daring, who cuts through smoke screens with bold gestures to redefine the landscape.